This is Dharma Drops with your host, Rebecca Warfield. This podcast is a little bit about yoga, a little bit about life, and a little bit about whatever. And just as a warning, this podcast is unscripted, so that means I might regret a few things that I say. But hey, maybe I'll say some pretty awesome stuff too. Remember, these are musings, not truths. Buckle up, giddy up, because here we go. Hey, Dharma Drops listeners, it's me, your host of Dharma Drops podcast, Rebecca Warfield. Just a few announcements before we get in today's episode, which is the first Dharma Mini Drops episode that has a guest, so that's kind of exciting. But there's a few things going on that might be of interest to you. First and foremost, just really quickly, I want to let you know that I do use Zoom to record virtually, but with the entire world moving their businesses online, Zoom is having some trouble with bandwidth. So you might notice some changes in sound quality, but hey, we're still having good conversations. We're still having a good time. So just bear with me as we navigate these really weird times of the entire world being online. So outside of that, though, there is some really exciting stuff happening online with Dharma Drops, including the new virtual studio. So if you haven't heard yet, there are live stream classes taught by some of your favorite Dharma Drops guests. You can check that out at dharmadropspodcast.com. And I've also launched a platform for you to practice yoga anytime, anywhere, on any device. So these are recorded classes, and it's a monthly membership that's only $9.99 a month to get unlimited access to all the classes, and new classes are added every week. There is a 7-day free trial of the unlimited monthly membership. So you can go to dharmadropspodcast.com, and where you see virtual studio, just hover there and there'll be a little drop down and it'll say recorded classes and monthly membership. So just to clarify, there's live stream and then there's also recorded classes. So the monthly membership is for the recorded classes. So what I've been doing in terms of the live stream classes is I'm trying to find a way to help teachers who don't have as much income right now because studios are closed. I'm trying to help them find a way to make some money. So 80% of the live stream fees go straight to the teacher. So then $1, so 20% then, which adds up to $1, goes to Dharma Drops to pay for scheduling software, Zoom, and other operating expenses. So when you take a live stream class with Dharma Drops, you are purchasing an affordable class because they're only $5. You're helping a teacher make a little income right now, and then you're also helping the operating expenses for Dharma Drops. So it's a win-win-win. In other news, there are some new treasures in the shop: meditation seats, some mini bolsters, scarves, and other treasures. So be sure to check them out. And there are lots of new articles on the Dharma Drops blog with new ones coming soon. So be sure to stay in touch by visiting dharmadropspodcast.com on the reg. But in any case, that's it for this week's announcements. There will be a full-length episode coming out this Friday. Until then, enjoy this mini drop episode. All right, guys, here we go.
All right, I'm ready. I've got one kitty ready to go with me.
That's so cute. Okay, sounds good. All right, let's rock this. Hey, Dharma Drops listeners. It's me, your host of Dharma Drops podcast, Rebecca Warfield, and I am here again with my friend and acupuncturist, Pam Butz. How's it going, Pam?
Hi, doing well.
I think this is the fastest I've ever had a return guest.
Yeah.
We need you right now.
Times are important.
Yeah, for sure. So we need to talk a little bit about, how to take good care of ourselves. And I think we touched on that on our full-length episode a few weeks ago. But for today's mini drop, I don't even actually know what we're going to talk about. What are we talking about?
Well, we can talk about whatever, but there's a pretty pressing issue.
Well, is there something happening in the world right now?
There is. Unless you've been in deep meditation for months, there's a big pandemic going on right now, and it's important to discuss this because it's rocking us on so many levels. So
yeah, I keep saying like the layers. That's the word that I keep coming up with that I've referenced a couple times now, I think, on the show, is that like the layers of this in our lives, like the physical, the energetic, the emotional, the spiritual, the economic layers of all this is just so all consuming.
It is.
It's crazy. I have been to the grocery store once And then sometimes we take our dog for a walk, or we'll get in the car and open the sunroof to let some sunshine, on our skin.
Yeah.
But I am working 100% from home right now.
Oh, good. And that's good. And that's very good for a lot of people that can do that. So that's great. Yeah,
for sure. And so I know that, you work in a healing industry, you work with acupuncture and Chinese medicine. And one of the things we talked about pre-pandemic was you coming back on the show and doing some mini episodes about self-care and taking good care of ourselves, just in general, but it's just more important now than ever. So I'm wondering, what is it right now that you think is the most important for us to be doing?
Well, there's a lot actually. The biggest thing is, and we've all heard this, is making good, healthy food choices and washing your hands and not touching your face. Those were like the three big ones I had to say, that would be it. I have a lot of mixed feelings about this social distancing and that kind of thing, but basic hygiene. And it's really interesting. You would think that this would be one we all had and we've gotten, but people are still eating, and I've seen it, say they're doing a construction project at my very own house, and then I offer them a sandwich and they're eating without washing their hands, and I'm almost trying to bite my tongue on that, but I've seen it. So I'm really surprised that there's still people putting hand to mouth without washing their hands. So that's really, really important right now. And it's one of the things people that have seen me treat, they know. I mean, I'm washing my hands. I probably wash them 40 to 50 times a day, no joke, in between everything I touch, everything to go back in the room. And so knock on wood, I stay very healthy, and I do not put my hands to my face. I do not put my hands in my mouth. I took microbiology in college, and that was the end of me ever putting my fingers to my mouth.
So I don't know if you know the answer to this question, and it might be something for a different day, but in a lot of Eastern cultures, handshaking is not necessarily a thing. And I've been wondering, I haven't looked this up, I have no idea if there's any truth to this, but I've been wondering if the reason why maybe there aren't handshaking sort of norms in these cultures is because they've learned through these generations of experience about some of the dangers of touching hands and sharing germs that way.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And I would believe that there was probably some truth in that they kind of just knew intuitively. And unfortunately, I do think this might be, we're going to make a change from a handshake for sure, which I'm actually a big fan of. I don't think it's good to be touching everybody's hands like that. What I don't want to see go is hugs and touch, because that's huge and very important for our society. So I feel like, with hands, you're touching your hands, you touch doorknobs, you touch your face. With a hug, you're just kind of coming in and sharing that really beautiful heart energy. I think that's really important. And I think you can do that, if both heads are turned away from each other. Not now, but, as we come back to what we will call the new norm, I agree. I think handshaking might be a thing of the past. I don't know. It makes sense to me not to do it just for germ spread.
Yeah, for sure.
If you buy into germ theory, that's the other thing. There's a lot of different theories in Chinese medicine. I mean, there's all these pathogens are out there all the time. And so it's a matter of keeping yourself healthy and strong to fight the pathogen rather than constantly avoiding them. Because what we've done, and I'm going to reference that essay that I sent you a link to, is one of my bigger fears is we become so sterile that we create monster bugs. And then that could be another issue there too. But I'm not, I've kind of, like I said before, wandered away from the very strict Western scientific approach on a lot of this. And so I'm going to look at it from a different angle.
And so when you talk about looking at it from a different angle, I'm assuming you're coming from an Eastern perspective and maybe even like a Chinese medicine perspective, because that's sort of what you work in. And I know we've talked in the past about how Chinese medicine, acupuncture, these other sort of energetic practices, they're really I think, designed to prevent illness and dis-ease rather than to cure it. So in terms of, let's say, eating good food, are there any things from your perspective right now that can help us stay nice and healthy? And I'm not going to make any claims on my podcast that this is going to prevent any illness, but maybe that can help us stay healthy.
Well, absolutely. The biggest thing is, and you hit the nail on the head, and we talked about this in our last podcast, is we don't put any value on prevention, and prevention is huge. And how do you prevent? You eat really good food, and you treat your body well, and you live a life in balance and harmony, and that is your relationships, that is with your own self. There's a lot to it. So it's yes, but let's start with food. So in Chinese medicine, you have lots of different kinds of qi, and one of them is called your Wei Qi, W-E-I. It's your defensive qi, and your lungs actually circulate that qi. So this qi kind of runs between your skin and your muscles, opens and closes the pores of your body. So anyone that has had treatment with me, I'm like terrified of the wind. And I'm always saying, cover your neck, keep yourself out of the wind. Don't go running in the wind and open those pores up and let that wind get you, okay? The wind is a carrier of 1,000 diseases. So these things are always out there, and we can label them different things. But so one of the things you can do, of course, is keep your the back of your neck and your head covered in the wind. But the second thing, and you've heard me talk about this, is making something I like to call lung soup. Very simple.
Lung soup is very good. I have made lung soup.
And it's super easy. So all these organs, energy systems in Chinese medicine have colors, sounds, odors, emotions, numbers, planets. We could go on and on and on. But what I like about the lung soup is basically you just get in your grocery cart and you get everything white you possibly can think of, or whatever you like, throw it in your cart, put it on a big pot, and make it. So I'll give you an example. I like a whole chicken with the bone. I bring it home, I cut it in half, I take half and freeze it, and the other half I put in a pot, boil it. I get this beautiful broth. I pull out the chicken and the bones, let them cool in the colander, and pull off the meat. And I like to let the broth cool overnight, skim out the fat. The next day, all my white things are going in there. Cauliflower, white onion, garlic, huge fan of the garlic. People put mushrooms, potatoes, rice. I like bok choy because it's mostly white.
I love bok choy. I'm starving right now. This is killing me.
Yeah. and then you can spice it up with a little salt and pepper, maybe dill or lemon pepper, whatever you like to do to get it, because it's pretty bland. But this is a very basic tonifying soup in general. And so keeping those lungs nice and healthy and strong to help that very, very first line of defense, which of course, as we all know, is our skin. And so cleaning, a nice good exfoliation every now and again, and get the qi, self-massage, get that qi and blood flowing to skin to bring the nutrients up there. That's our first line of defense on everything. So that would be my first suggestion of food, very specific foods. For that.
And I have made lung soup, and it's very good. And what I like about this is, sometimes I do the Ayurvedic cleanses, and they're pretty specific. There's a little wiggle room, but often I don't like a lot of this stuff. So I don't want to eat it. It's not very exciting. But what I like about lung soup is I can put whatever in it that I want as long as it's white. And so I use white beans. I put some parsnips, cauliflower. I can't remember everything I put in there, but it was good.
Good. Absolutely. And it's delicious, and it makes so much that you can freeze it, and then you always have it. And I'm telling you, the minute I hear anyone's not feeling well, the first thing I'm doing is say, you need to be eating lung soup. But I just eat it. I actually start making it in the fall, and I eat it all winter long, pretty regularly. I always have backstock, put it that way.
Yeah, for sure. So are there any other things in terms of food or nutrition that you recommend in addition to lung soup? I'm pretty familiar with lung soup, but I actually don't know any others. So I'd be curious to know.
So we want to always build qi and blood in Chinese medicine. Okay. And so the lung soup will actually help a lot with the qi part. So the next thing we need to do is start to build blood. And one of the best ways to build blood is actually, of course, eating red meat. Now, there's a lot of people that don't want to eat red meat, and that's okay. So where do you get your best source of blood building? Bok choy, beets, dark leafy greens. Those are excellent to help build blood in Chinese medicine. So what happens is, and let's just talk about a pathogen because we're dealing with one now on the planet, is in Chinese medicine, you have your first two lines of defense. First is that Wei Qi. You want to get that pathogen out. And so you want to do that is just repelling it off your body with this very strong Wei Qi. The second is the Zhang Qi. That's your upright Qi. To have good upright Qi in your body, you need to have good Qi in blood and all your systems working and tonifying. How do you get that done? You get your treatments, you get your massages, things like that to keep your body to stay healthy. But the other thing is, of course, eating foods that build Qi in blood. Chicken, great Qi builder. Beef, great blood builder. If you don't want those, and I get that, some people aren't, carrots, yams, great Qi builders, very good for your spleen energy. And then all the things I just mentioned for building your blood. And you want to do it in moderation because red meat can be very inflammatory and hot. So you need to, of course, portion control that. And for people that are just trying to get back and nourish slowly, or they don't want to eat meat, beef broth or very stewed beef. There's a difference between eating the stewed beef and like a steak or a hamburger. Okay, that's just a lot harder to digest. So a very soft, stewy beef would be a really good way to start if you wanted to get a little beef in your body. So those would be my best thing. Of course, exercise. I'm a huge fan of exercise in balance. You know, there's people off the bell curve the other way on the exercise. And getting out and getting some fresh air, and really right now more than ever, our thoughts and our mental, where is our thoughts in our brain, because we have a lot of opportunity here right now to create a very beautiful planet.
Yeah, I agree. And the article that you sent me, which I have not yet read, for those of you listening, I'm going to put the link in the show notes, but it is called The Coronation. And just the first thing that I noticed is that it talks about, I just skimmed it, and it was talking about like when an entire world works together. Yeah. You know, where did I see this? I can't even find it in here, but I will post it in the show notes. Oh, here it is. When humanity is united in common cause, phenomenally rapid change is possible. And we talked a little bit about this on an episode I recorded with a yoga teacher named Swan Michelle. That episode is going to go live this coming Friday. But we also talked about how what's so interesting right now is we are separate. We are distanced physically, but we still have this opportunity to work together. But that's also done by working just alone, which is kind of cool. Like by taking good care of yourself and eating good food, we're actually contributing to a greater cause for the world.
Right. So it always begins with the self, right, and how you love yourself and how you take care of yourself. And if you love and take care of yourself and your cup is full, the cup runneth over, and you were able to love and take care of other people. And that is really important. So we all are right now in this kind of isolating spaces. We do have a chance to check in, revisit, what is out of balance? Where do I need to make these changes? What could I be doing better? A lot of us, myself included, have a lot more time on our hands. So I'm using that time in creativity and in forward thinking rather than the lack. And this is huge right now. This the abundance and love versus the fear and lack. And the reason I really want to bring up this article, this Charles Eisenstein's article, he speaks. You can actually listen to it. You don't have to read it. He reads it on that link as well. And he speaks from a very neutral standpoint about everything going on in the world right now, and that we're standing at this crossroads of opportunity or not. And so I think it's a great read. It's a great, and I wanted to bring this up because I think he speaks to everything that's going on much better than I can. What I can offer is, yes, basic Chinese medicine to help you stay healthy. One of the things we haven't talked about are, of course, herbs and things that people can take to stay healthy as well. But if you're looking for a deeper thinking piece on everything that's going on right now, that article is phenomenal, and I highly recommend it.
Okay, it'll be in the show notes for everyone to read. And like I said, I just skimmed it. before recording because you just sent it to me, but I'll check it out today. But you struck my interest a little bit. I know this is a mini episode, so we try to keep them short and digestible. So we probably can't cover all of this today. But off the top, in terms of herbs, what are the best things for us to be taking right now if we are resorting to Chinese medicine?
Okay. So a couple things about Chinese medicine that is fun. Right before this happened and before I decided to, I am still treating in my clinic, but at a very limited basis. I went back and forth with do I or don't I. But I had taken a seminar specifically on this virus, and one of the things they talked about was actually in Wuhan, one of the ways they finally got this thing under control was actually it was mandated that they begin to use Chinese herbal medicine. So what they did, they broke it down into different stages. We have the preventative stage, which let's talk about that. There's a basic formula in Chinese medicine called Yuping Feng San, which I know is a bunch of Chinese, but it has 3 herbs in it: Huang Qi, which everyone might know as astragalus, Baizhi, and Baizhu, not Baizhi, sorry, and Feng Feng. And this formula basically works as a windscreen in your body. So I already mentioned that the wind is a carrier of 1,000 diseases. So those fancy Chinese windscreens we've all seen in stores, and we all love them. That used to sit in front of course, the window, and then the wind would blow in. It would divert the wind to either side, so you never got a direct hit of the wind.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so this formula is made exactly like that in your body. So you take this base formula, and it's designed to strengthen your qi so strong so that if that wind can get past that first line of defense, it diverts the wind and you don't get sick. So the big herb that everyone knows for immunostimulant is actually the astragalus. The formula itself is great for anyone to take, anyone susceptible to allergies, things like that, or they get a lot of colds and flus. When that cold and flu season comes, start taking that formula. The piece that's missing in that formula, it doesn't have any of the antiviral herbs in it. So what they figured out in China is they start with that base formula, and then they added, and there's tons of antiviral herbs. Biggest one being, believe it or not, honeysuckle flower, Jinyin Hua. And so having that formula with those in it just as a good preventative. Now, I'll be honest with you. Anyone that I think is immunosuppressed, has lung issues, asthma, things like that, yes, they should absolutely be on that, something like that right now. Someone like me, and I'm just speaking for myself, I'm very healthy, I take good care of myself. I am not taking a preventative formula right now. I don't feel like I need it personally at the moment. I'm pretty much alone in my house, and I do go into work a little bit. I'm wearing a mask. I do go to the grocery store, but I'm always been kind of a hand washer anyway. So that to me is not a big new thing in my life. But someone that does have asthma, and I do have people right now on this formula, and they're taking it as a preventative, and they should absolutely be on a preventative. So I don't think everybody needs it, but it's good for a lot of people, and it's good to know that it's out there.
Yeah, for sure. And, I fall in that category. We've talked about my lungs a million times. My chest is so sensitive, and I've been very concerned, for my health. And also I don't want to carry the virus and give it to other people. Right. But because my chest is so sensitive, I'm actually curious to know where can I get that? If folks wanted to take this to help prevent some illness, whether it's coronavirus or anything else, because when this is over, other shit's going to happen.
Right. Well, and that's the piece we have to remember is this is just one of many that are out there. I personally believe it's always kind of been around. They kind of found it, that type of thing. It just depends. I think we're constantly bombarded with pathogens. So keeping yourself healthy is number one important thing. But to answer your question, you can get it from acupuncturists that, of course, have the herbs in their business or their practice would be a great way to get it. I believe you can get it online. Now, if you're not in this category of people that should be taking something like that prophylactically. I am taking, and this is not Chinese medicine, so I'm not going to sit here and publicly endorse it. However, monolaurin, are you familiar with that? M-O?
I had a physician actually recommend monolaurin to me a few years ago when I had a chest infection.
Beautiful. So I just found out about this through where I work in my new office. And basically, it has been shown that the monolaurin breaks down the outer envelope of some viruses and therefore making their replication a little more difficult. Now, I want people to actually do their own research on that because this is all just me in passing conversation. So prophylactically, I am taking 2 monolaurins a day right now, just as a precaution.
Yeah. It's been a long time since I took monolaurin, and I can't remember exactly how things went, but I'm not sick anymore. So that's one good thing. But it was actually at like a regular Western doctor's office that was recommended. Yeah. So it's kind of interesting because I know sometimes, like, depending on our experiences and our beliefs coming toward health from an Eastern perspective or just from a more holistic perspective can seem a little sketchy sometimes. So I think the really important thing is to do your own research about this.
Research and go, like, for example, the herbs and the companies I buy from, I know those herbs are organic, pesticide free and good. Mm-hmm. Not, you just have to know your sources. And there's a company out in California called Evergreen Herbs. They do a phenomenal job with quality control in their herbs. They're probably my one of my favorites. So yes, there's a lot of really great companies out there. And then of course there's Joe Schmo's herb shop, and you don't know what you're getting from where. Some of the herbs are a little harder to get right now, which is understandable, but they're coming. I'm just getting, like, things are coming in slower. I'm not getting them the next day air like I used to.
Everything's really slow. This is off topic, but I tried to order a book off Amazon because I usually read off my Kindle or my phone, but I was like, you know what? I just want to hold a book right now. So this was 2 days ago. So that would have been April 4th. Do you know the delivery date from Amazon Prime for that book was April 25th?
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Yeah. So because as they should, they're prioritizing other things, but so delivery is slow, but I mean, more time to do good research to find out what you're buying.
Do good research. Yeah. If I can, I'd love to share with you too, if you do start to feel not well, what I think people should do. Mm-hmm. From Chinese medicine standpoint, first and foremost, if you have an underlying condition, you've got to get to your general practitioner because they need to monitor that pretty well. But one of the best things you can do, there's of course formulas. Now what we're in we passed the preventative stage. Let's just say a pathogen, and this is any pathogen, again, not just this COVID-19, any pathogen. And you start to get a sore throat or start to feel run down, your head hurts, that kind of, you're starting to get a cold. There's formulas, Yin Chow Song, which I believe you can get on Amazon. I have a great one called Viral Defense, and it's a blend of Yin Chow Song and Gan Mao Ling, which are 2 great formulas, and they're designed to vent pathogens back out. So they send the pathogen so it can't go further, what we call into the interior. So the whole progression in Chinese medicine is a pathogen that goes from the exterior into the interior. And the idea is get it out, sweat it out. So the other thing people can do, I love, is a good hot, spicy Thai soup, like a Tom Yum Gai or something like that. Your best thing, and not exercise sweat. Why? Because you need that qi to actually fight the pathogen. So I'm talking like wrap in blankets, eat hot soup, gentle sweat.
Gotcha.
And then you try and vent the pathogen out and taking care of yourself that way. So there are herbs for that too, which I believe you can get on you can pretty much get anything on Amazon. My preference would be, of course, someone worked with somebody that knew what they were doing. But sure, if your push comes to shove and you need some Yin Chow San, you go get it.
Because sometimes
I have an acupuncture so you can just text anytime, say, hey, should I start taking this? Yes, absolutely, start taking it.
Sometimes you just got to order stuff off the internet.
Sometimes you do. And then if the pathogen gets deeper, we have other even stronger herbs when it starts to turn into the fever or fever and chills. These are all signs in Chinese medicine of the progression of the disease. So then we switch herbs accordingly. So that's why it's like you just don't take one thing all the time when you don't feel well. You have to see where is this pathogen and what is it doing to your body, and then adjust everything according. By the time it's to that point, you're not eating because you don't feel like it. You're too sick to eat. And then, of course, there's the recovery phase of rebuilding that chi, rebuilding that blood. With this particular pathogen, the COVID-19, when that one gets in, and you have an underlying lung condition, as much as they do have great herbs for it, that's when you really need to be supervised by the Western medical system here, which is what they were, I think, afraid of they were going to get bombarded with.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's important to note too, which we talked about in our full-length episode a few weeks ago that went live, is that a lot of this is a balance, especially depending on what's happening in our bodies. For some people, I think, using Chinese medicine as prevention is probably enough. For others, if you have underlying conditions or propensity to certain illnesses, you might just need to go to your doctor sometimes and find a nice balanced way of, managing your health.
Exactly. It doesn't have to be an either or. It can be an and. And I think that's the beauty of it. And I've said this before, we all know our bodies and we know what works. And we also have to know what our peace of mind is too. Some people really need, that they want that Western assurance, and that's fine, and do it. That's what I would say. If that's what, works for you, absolutely. Mm-hmm. It just all depends on where we are and what we like and our preferences. But Chinese medicine is, in fact, great to boost your immune system. These herbs work amazing. They've shown it. And in China, I think they're at 94.3% effective was what I read.
Pam, this has been really good information. Is there anything else that you want to share before we wrap things up for this mini episode today?
No, they always go so fast. We start talking and next thing you know, they're over.
It's okay. We can do more. We can always do more.
Really, all I would have to say is I hope everyone is, let's create the world we want to create. And what does that look like? And I really think, and I hate to pass the buck on to somebody that is a better writer, a better speaker, but that essay that you were going to put in the link, he has some beautiful thought-provoking things, just things to think about. It's not written in a way that's challenging or argumentative. It's just a nice read. And what I would say is we all have this time here. Use your time, use your beautiful time on this planet to create, to spread as much joy and love, and to really take care of yourself, and in a balanced way.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Balance, it's always the key, isn't it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we can go out of balance on both ends of the spectrum. So I like the bell curve. I like to be right smack dab in the middle of that bell curve.
Yep, that's right. I think it's really easy there. I think it's really easy right now to be on one side or the other. I have felt that in my own life. I'm sort of pinging yay, everything's fine. I love all this space. I love all this time. I get to create. And the next thing I know, I'm sobbing on the floor, So I feel like right now it's extra important to find those practices that help you feel balanced.
It is. And I will speak from personal experience. I'm one of these self-employed folks that has absolutely no income, and I have all my outcome. So I am right there with everybody else in feeling the pinch of this on an economic side. So what I have done, and this is just my personal practice, and this is a one thought of suggestion. Anytime I feel, and like you, I yo-yo a little bit, when I start to feel those feelings of fear and lack and doubt, I go right into that chanting practice, and I chant the abundance chant, and I simply say, I surrender completely. I'm willing to do the work, whatever that is, and maybe it's shifting, and I'm okay with that. And then it gives me something very active, and I go around those beads 108 times, and I start chanting Lakshmi mantra. So you can look that up online too. I have one that I do that was given to me, and I've given it out to people I treat. But that is a way for me to get my mind back into love and light and abundance and the trusting piece, because it is. It's easy to yo-yo on this one. So that's what I do. And it seems to be working. And one night I was up, I think it was 4 4 a.m. to about 6 because I woke up in a little bit of like, how am I going to pay my mortgage? How am I going to, that kind of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just grabbed those beads. I said, I'm not going there. I am not going there. I have got to stay. And so I just started the chant and I fell asleep with those beads in my hand. It was great.
Oh, that's really beautiful. I kind of I go in and out with my malas. I don't know why. I know they say your meditation practice should sort of stay consistent, but mine changes frequently.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to bust out my mala beads today. I feel re-inspired.
Bust out those beads. And I love it because it gives me something very physical to do rather than just sit there going, gosh, why is my mind not quieting? Why is my mind not quieting?
Yeah, I know, because it's hard, because the mind, it sure doesn't want to quiet.
No, if I'm playing with those vibrations, I'm like, okay, I feel that in my belly now. Ooh, that one's a little too high. That one's up in my head, making me a little bit, I like the vibrations I can work with.
Mm-hmm. So for those of you listening, what I'll do is I will put some Lakshmi mantras in the show notes too, so you can check those out in case you don't know them. Pam, this has been great. I think this is really good, tangible information, and bite-sized, literally in some cases, bite-sized because we're eating it, bite-sized bits of information for us to be using as we navigate these waters of the coronavirus pandemic. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thank you so much. So great to hear your voice. I love Zoom. This is a new thing I found, and I love being able to see people and wave to people, but I will just be grateful I get to hear your voice because I can tell you're smiling.
I am smiling. It's true. And hey, look, anytime you want to be back on Dharma Drops, you just let me know.
All right. Thank you so much. Always a pleasure. So great to hear your voice, and I'm so glad you're doing well.
Thank you. You too, Dharma Drops listeners. To get the full show notes, just head over to dharmadropspodcast.com and click podcast, and you'll see it all there. You can find more information about all the Dharma Drops shenanigans at Dharma Drops Podcast on Instagram and dharmadropspodcast.com. Thanks, Pam.
All right. Thank you so much. Have a beautiful day.
You too. Bye, guys.
Right. Bye-bye.